Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. Terrick Guindy with the Mr. Olympia. Today, we're going to discuss the Masters Olympia in Tokyo, Japan. It was confirmed this will take place in 2025. In addition to that, we'll be covering the Rising Phoenix, where Angela Yo upset Miss Olympia Andrea Shaw. I want to introduce you guys, my co-hosts for the evening. He is the master of ceremony for the Mr. Olympia, the 2000 Mr. USA, Bob Ciccarillo. How are you, Bob?
What's up, Terrick? What's up, boys?
What's up, Bob?
What's up, Doing good, thank you. Also with us, he's one of the most respected experts in bodybuilding. He is the producer and the owner of the Ron Harris Muscle Show. Welcome, Ron Harris. How are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me, Terrick.
Thank you so much. Also with us, one of the most respected historians of bodybuilding, also one of the greatest natural bodybuilders of all times, John Hansen.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing good, doing good. Bob, it was announced today that the Master Olympia will take place in Tokyo, Japan. We have some historians here. Is this the first time the Masters Olympia takes place outside of United States?
Boy, John's would probably be a ringer for this one, but I think so. Listen, it was around a lot of years early on when Joe Weider first initiated it. Everybody remembers the early years: Lou Ferrigno, Robbie Robinson, Boyer Co., all the crew back then. It was around for a few, then it kind of disappeared for a while. And then a lady named Yarka brought it back. She was clearly from outside the U.S. This is when Vince Taylor, when I was around, he was just winning these things left and right and still putting out a great physique to boot. Sonny Schmidt, we had some great champs from this. And then it disappeared for another 9 years until Jake Wood just brought it back last year. No, actually the year before. No, last year, that's right, because this year it's off, and then it's back again next year. So, John, you could probably lend some credibility to this one, but I think all of it, were they all in the U.S.?
Well, the last one was Romania, right? Last year.
Well, other than the present company, yeah.
That is very ironic that I asked this question. Yeah, I judged the show in Romania, but
right.
With the exception of Romania, have we had outside of United States?
I don't think so, no, because it was in Atlanta, I believe, when it started, right? When they started.
Yeah, actually, if memory serves, it was never with the Olympia. It was put on with other. In conjunction with other shows like the Jan Tana and some other, Virginia, I think was for the most part, right?
I think the first year it was with the Olympia when Robbie won it over Lou. I think maybe the first couple of years it was with the Olympia. I think it was held that same weekend.
Right.
You remember that, Ron? Does that sound right?
I don't remember because I was at those Olympias and I don't remember a Masters. I could be wrong. I know later on it was always a standalone event, but maybe it was held. Because 94 was the first year, if memory serves.
That was the big one, yeah. That was a great one because it had a lot of the old-time guys, like Padilla was in it, and Chris Dickerson was in it, and Bill Grant. So it had a lot of the old bodybuilders from the 70s. So that was a really cool one.
Yeah.
So my question to all of you guys, so we had it in Romania last year. It was over 40. I had the opportunity to judge the show with Steve Weinberger, with Leona Bergman, and some other judges from Europe. And because it was only over 40, the quality was extremely good. Kamal Elgarni won the Open. In the Classic, you had Alex Cambronero, who was fantastic. In the men's physique, Arya Safai, who wins Open shows. We had Jessica Padilla, who had taken second place at the Olympia, winning there. Is this the formula, Bob, Ron, John? Is this the 40? Is the 40 the key number?
Well, here's the good and the bad. Okay, the good is that I think it is a key number. Traditionally, at least when I was growing up, and I'm sure these guys have been around almost as much as I have in those times. It was always 40 and over was Masters back then. Now the bad of it is there's a big difference. And I can tell you this at now 58 years old, between a 40-year-old and a 50-year-old. So if you're 50 plus and you're competing against a guy who's 40, 41, 42, it's not even fair, really. There should almost be, suffice to say, subdivisions. Maybe there's a overall type of thing. You could do that, or maybe there's just a subdivision of a 50 plus, like we do at the NPC shows. But it's very difficult to give up 10, 15, 20 years to somebody on a bodybuilding stage and be competitive.
Ron, do you like the over 40? Do you think we should indulge in over 50? What is your take?
I like keeping it just one division, one, I guess open would be the wrong term here, but keeping it over 40. And yeah, the guys in their 40s have an advantage over the guys in their 50s. They have an advantage over the guys in the 60s. I remember in Masters Olympia in decades past, they did do separate divisions for over 50, over 60. And then you get, it's kind of embarrassing. I mean, I'm almost 55, so I'm not being ageist here, but the body does not look the same at 50 as it did at 40, at 60. And when you got guys pushing 70, it's kind of embarrassing. And I don't want to see a guy who was amazing in 1970 or 75 looking like a shadow of his former self with, here I go again, wrinkly, saggy skin and a third of the muscle mass he used to have. And you also have cases where I won't name names or years, but sometimes there'll be like one guy in the over 50 or over 60. That has happened. And then he goes around saying that he's Mr. Olympia because he's the only one in that subcategory. So let's keep the quality high. Guys like Kamal, guys like Max Charles, Phil Plehar, yeah, they destroy these guys who have been retired for 20, 30 years, but it still has that Olympia name, and I want to see the best physiques up there.
John, I had the opportunity to judge the event Masters 40, and it was very competitive. Kamal El-Garni won, and he was a very good bodybuilder. Do you agree with over 40? Do you think it should be that competitive?
Yeah, I almost think we could raise it to over 50 now because 50 is the new 40, right? So, I mean, guys are looking, and women are looking so much better now as they get older. 40 is no big deal. I mean, I don't even think 40 is even really considered masters, in my opinion. I think we could probably start at 50, because I think everybody's looking so good now, and like Bob said, if you get somebody who's 40, 41 and competing against someone who's 50, it is a big difference. That 10 years makes a difference. But I don't think a lot of these bodybuilders, we're not really seeing their aging, until they get past 50 because they're looking so good.
Yeah, I saw Alex Cambronero come in the classic physique, and he looked incredible at the Masters Olympia. He really dominated that lineup, and in Jessica Padilla in the figure. I'm a fan of the over 40, and I agree with all of you. I agree with you, John. The 40s are still very competitive, but I think that's how the show is going to get momentum and credibility. When you really have great competitors there that are 41, 42, and we see them in great shape. And I think we can make a parallel to our mainstream society. If you're not in the bodybuilding industry and you look at somebody who's 40, unfortunately in our country, a lot of people who are 40, they're overweight, they're already having health problems. So I think we can already create some type of, hey, the bodybuilding is the fountain of youth. This guy just won the Masters Olympia. He's 43 years old. Look how great he looks.
Well, to follow up on what John said, and I agree wholeheartedly, the problem is you're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Agreed. It should basically be 50 and over. Problem is with that is there's fewer competitors. They don't nearly look as good as the 40 to 50-year-old crew. And it's very difficult to get that level of competition at a Masters Olympia. On the flip side of that, the average mean age since I was coming up in the ranks back in the day, most of the guys who are turning pro between 19, 20, and 25 years old. That was about the average back then. Since that time, it has gone up at least 10 years, where most of the guys competing and getting their pro cards now, not including the guys in the Masters division, are in their late 30s, if not half the lineup at the Olympia is probably 40. So it's a, pick your poison type of thing. You leave it in the 40s and it's a little bit more competitive, yet a lot of the guys like Kamal just came out as a 212 champion and then runner-up. He was still competing. Jessica Padilla, again, second in the world to Sid Gillen. So she's already on the circuit at 41 or 2 or whatever she is now. So that's a tough one. It's a very tough one to to kind of find that middle of the road, like what's worth it, what's not, what has any appeal. It's not an easy answer.
Well, and I think if you keep it under 40, then you prevent, right, somebody who's, 56, 57, might have had some injuries or some, health issues from competing because they know they're going to be battling it out with guys that are in their 40s. We have here in our live Phil Clahar. He competed in the Masters, looked incredible. I know Sean Clarita could compete as a Master 212. Yeah. God bless whoever faces Sean Clarita anywhere. And then Bonek is 40 as well. Yeah. Apparently Breon and Andrew Jack are over 40. So I mean, Ron,
yeah,
I like the fact that some of these top guys can compete, and I think that's how it should be. And I'm ready as an Olympia TV guy to tell them, hey, you should go there, and you could be the first one, to win in the Classic, and then maybe Breon finally goes to the 212 Masters, right? I want these top guys to compete. I don't want the Masters to be a competition where the quality goes down.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, on everybody's side, it's better to have it over 40. As the fans, you want to see the best physiques up there. You don't want to see people who are way, way past their prime. People, guys who have lost their legs, muscle tears, saggy skin. You want to see at least a few guys who are still at their physique prime, like Kamal, like Phil, like Max were, like Jessica Reyes Padilla, like Cambronero, guys who could still mix it up in the open shows and still do. And, from a promotion side, that's how you get the audience, the people to buy tickets. That's how you get sponsors. That's how you get pay-per-views. I'm a fan of the old timers, but I still want to see great physiques, especially when you have that Olympia title affixed to the name of the show. It's the Masters Olympia. It's not like a Masters Pro World or Masters Universe, or it's got that Olympia name, and that's always going to carry a certain prestige. And I think it has to live up to that name. So, yeah, as much as it's not fair to the guys who are 50, 55, go up against the Sean Clarita potentially, or Kamal, people who are still in the peak of their physique, it's what's best for everybody in the end.
Yeah. Going back to the location, right? So last year we were in Romania. It was a success. There was initially a concern if competitors would travel to Romania. It turned out everybody went to Romania and people loved it. Now we're going to Tokyo, Japan. Last year I had the opportunity to judge in Japan, and I know full well the promoter of the shows in Japan. His name is Shoji, and he's also the owner of Evo Gear, a sponsor of the Mr. Olympia. And he's a very detail-oriented, he's a very traditional guy. What do you make it, Bob, of Japan, Tokyo, Japan, as a location for the Masters Olympia?
Well, a little bit further away. I'm suspecting if we keep going at this pace, either Australia or South Africa is next. But listen, it's not a short trip, but for those who want to get a little, I don't know, I guess you can combine it with a vacation, see Tokyo. I've never been to Tokyo myself, but it's one of those bucket list type places that maybe one day I'll get to. But listen, as long as the athletes are willing to support it, they do pay their own way there. It's not a cheap ticket, but as long as they're willing to support it, God bless them.
Let's introduce here our Hall of Famer, Sean Ray. He is the 1987 national champion, Arnold Classic champion, Ironman champion, Hall of Famer. Sean, I think you're muted right now, but we want to welcome you to the live.
All right, what's happening, boys? Traffic. I'm late.
It's traffic in LA? What?
Right.
So, Sean, we were talking about the location, Japan, Tokyo, Japan. I've been to Tokyo, Japan. I know the promoter, Shoji. I think he's one of the best promoters in the world. What do you make it of the Masters Olympia in Japan?
Well, the last time I was on a bodybuilding stage ever in a pair of Speedos was in Okinawa, Japan, 2002. I went there a couple of times. I emceed that Pro-Am show for Hidetada and Iris Kyle a couple of years. And I got to tell you, Shibuya, Tokyo, Japan, clean. You'd be very surprised at how many people embrace the sport of bodybuilding over there. I mean, it feels like the Middle East. Those guys are fanatics. They got a great appreciation for what the athletes do. Listen, it wouldn't be going there if they didn't have an audience. I mean, it's on the rise. I actually think that bodybuilding and fitness and bikini and all that stuff is more popular outside the USA, especially in Japan, China, and the Middle East. And I've been to all those places. Just came back from Switzerland. It just seems like there's more people trying to chase that physical fitness lifestyle outside of the United States. We have so many choices here. Bodybuilding and fitness is not number one. It's like way down the list, but you get over there, they got high regard, big respect for the athletes. And I'm not surprised that it's there. And after this competition, I'm sure there'll be others that follow.
John, what do you make it of Masters Olympia in Tokyo, Japan?
Yeah, I think it's great too. We've never had a Mr. Olympia out there, so I think it's great that we're going into Japan. Like Shan said, some of these other countries, the sport is so big, like in the Middle East, and they have such more respect for bodybuilding. So I think it's a great move.
John, Ron, you like it? Japan as a location for the Masters?
Yeah, I think they should do it in a different place every year, like maybe Dubai after that or Paris the year after that. Like the Olympia used to rotate every year, U.S. to a place in Europe or Africa, or it was all over the world. It's a global show. Why not?
Yeah. Oh, Bob, you and I know that taking the actual Mr. Olympia outside of United States is very improbable, right? The sponsors are here. Most of the competitors are here. So we have to assume that the Mr. Olympia is going to stay in the United States. And for the most part, it feels like Jake Wood likes Las Vegas. That's the destination that he likes. But do you foresee the Masters Olympia being the international flavor of the Mr. Olympia around the world?
Well, it's certainly not the Olympia, but yeah, it could be. I mean, I have no problem, and I wouldn't even have the problem with the regular Olympia, dashing around like they do in other sports, the World Series, the Super Bowl. I mean, the Olympics, everything moves around country to country, or at least state to state. It could be if it was here in the U.S. That said, yeah, there are logistical issues and things like that. It's very difficult to put a show on overseas, as you know, as Jake Wood knows, as a lot of the as Robin Chang knows. If they're already there in their neck of the woods, yes, they can produce their own. We've got great shows in the Middle East. Bonneville Dive does a fantastic job, and various other competitions around the world. But I like the Olympia in Vegas. Vegas to me is always going to be the home of the Olympia. It's just a great destination. We had it there so many years at the Mandalay Bay, at the Orleans Arena, that to me, that just became home of the Olympia. So I don't really have any problem with it coming there. And let's face it, a lot of the athletes, while they represent different countries and such, a lot of them actually live here in the U.S. So there might be somebody from Venezuela or Spain or Germany or whatever, but they actually reside here in the U.S. It's a lot more efficient monetarily to keep most of the people that are here and not ship 400 people overseas.
Spoken like a true American, Bob.
Yes. USA.
I understand the necessity of keeping the Mr. Olympia in the United States. The logistics would be very, very hard to move everybody to another country. But I do think that the Masters Olympia is a huge opportunity to go to different places. And, I know Shoji, he is one of the best promoters in the world. He's very detailed, and I think he's going to do a great job. And for somebody that has never visited Tokyo, Japan, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Out of all the locations that I judge, I would say Tokyo is my number one place. I absolutely loved. So I recommend all of you guys. John, have you been to Tokyo?
No, I've never been to.
Oh, man, the sushi there is incredible. Ron, have you been to Tokyo?
No, I'd love to.
Oh, man. And Bob, you have not been there, huh?
No, nowhere around the east.
Just me and you, kid.
I was there for a week, and I came back looking 10 years younger. I was rejuvenated. But, people are so nice. The food was so good. Nobody is honking the horn there. Everything is peaceful and quiet. Those people live to be 95 years old. So it's great stuff. Congratulations to Jake Wood. Congratulations to Shoji. The Masters Olympia is going to Japan. Rumor has it that, well, we have a confirmation here that Phil Klahar is going to be there. I'm sure Kamal is going to be excited to defend his title. And Sean Clarita, Sean Clarita is, he is over 40, if I'm not mistaken. But if he put his hat on the open bodybuilding, he could very well win that title because, Sean Clarita is one of the best bodybuilders, regardless of 212 and open. Folks, before we go into the Rising Phoenix, we've had some, qualifications here. Sean Ray, Andrew Jack in Texas, did he impress you to the point that he can be Mr. Olympia?
Well, he impressed me to the point that he was a man amongst boys there in Texas. That was his show to win on paper going in, and clearly it was a runaway victory. But he wasn't standing next to what's going to be waiting for him in Las Vegas, and that's a big jump from Texas to Las Vegas. And I believe he's won Texas before. Was that his second time he won Texas?
Yeah.
Third time.
Yeah.
Third
So the
time.
guy's won it 3 times. It hasn't translated on the Olympia stage because he's up against Olympians. Now, mind you, I think he's top 5 or top 6 of the Olympia, but on paper, conversationally, he's still in the mix in terms of the top 6. I'm not sure that he's leapfrogged over everybody because he beat someone in Texas that was not a top Olympian. So let's not get too excited. We've seen this show before, and I've said it time and time again. The Olympia stage is a different animal. It doesn't matter who you are. You got to be able to get up for that occasion. And we've seen people miss their peak many times in September, October, when the Olympia rolls around. Flex Wheeler being one of them. He's Mr. March is what I call him, because in March he looked like Mr. Olympia. By the time the Olympia came around, there were these issues of water retention and travel and doing the business of bodybuilding. It gets in the way. When you hit your peak in July, that's not the same as hitting your peak come October, because the pressure is really on. Where is there to go for Andrew Jack? He looked like a peak bodybuilder at his last contest. He didn't need to drop to 5 or 10 pounds of water. He didn't need to gain 10 or 15 pounds of muscle. So what does he do? He's got a full 2 months to tinker with that physique, and he could miss it. So it's not a guarantee that what we saw in Texas translates on stage with the best in the world. But from my opinion, I think he should be in the top 5.
We have here 8-time Miss Olympia, Linda Murray. Japan, an excellent location for Masters Olympia. I agree. International destinations like Japan, exciting. Linda Murray, who conducted the Olympia battle between the women's bodybuilding. Linda Murray looks like she's 28 years old, guys. I don't know what's going on with Linda Murray, but every year I see her, she looks younger. So she's looking incredible. Yes. John, out of all the guys, let's eliminate Derek Lunsford, Hadi, and Sampson. We saw Nick Walker in New York. We saw Andrew Jack in Texas. We saw Baruz Tabani in Dubai. We saw Nathan, William Bonek. Who's the guy that has impressed you the most?
Andrew Jack, without a doubt. I'm very, very impressed with Andrew Jack. And like Sean said, he didn't he didn't have much competition in Texas, but he's a much improved version of what he was last year. He's only done 1 show this year, and he was incredible. I mean, just the size he has, the symmetry, the structure. To me, that's what Mr. Olympia should look like. And I'm very, very excited to see him up against those top 3 you just mentioned. And I think he could move up, way up to top 3. Who knows? I mean, and I think he only did that 1 show. He only did Texas. So I don't think he's going to be burned out. I think he might be improved. I think his coach, Chris Aceto, is trying to get him a little bigger. And I think they're going to dial him in. And the genetics on this guy and the potential on him is incredible. I mean, I almost look at him as kind of like Ronnie Coleman in 98. And if you remember back in 98, most people didn't have Ronnie in the top 5 or 6. They said he might be 6, and he ended up winning. And I think Andrew could pull it off. I mean, I'm very, very impressed with him.
Ron, obviously Andrew was impressive in Texas. Hunter Labrada is set to do the Italy show. There's been some updates online. What do you think of Hunter? Is this the year that he gets back into that first call out and puts on a show?
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. I mean, a couple of years ago, he got 4th place, and he's definitely made improvements to the physique since then. His issue has really just been, condition. He always seems to have like that little bit of film of water, or maybe he doesn't quite get lean enough. And we've seen a change. I've seen the updates. He's made a big change with his diet. He was having a lot of shakes previously, and now he switched to all whole foods. He does have a harder look to the muscles, better overall muscularity. I'm very, very curious to see how he looks at this Italy show. I know it's just like a formality. I don't know who's left to qualify that could really push him at this point, but I want to see the new version. When I see that, then I'll give you a better answer as to how well I think he could do, because this top 5, 6 right now, it's very stacked, very competitive.
Well, the $1 million question, Terrick, is why don't we have a competitors list? The show is a week away over in Italy. We don't know who's competing besides Hunter.
Well, I'll research for that, Sean, at your request.
Yeah.
And
it should be
Bob,
out there. It should be available. I don't understand what's the secrecy around a pro bodybuilding show 1 week away and we don't all know who's competing.
Well, I can tell you this right now. I mean, I haven't seen a list either, Sean, but this is no slam dunk for Hunter. Everybody's got it pretty much as a given. He's going to go over. He's going to wipe it clean. Listen, I don't know what these other guys are doing, but I do know there's other guys willing to travel over there, like Nathan Diaz, who's a complete killer when it comes to winning these shows of that nature. William Bonac, again, he's on his last year. He's doing the tour. I don't know. He can pick up a nice check. I don't know if anybody else is in the mix of any note, but I tell you what, those 2 guys is enough to give him a scare, and it's no guarantee, especially when you're going overseas. And Sean, we've covered this extensively on the VOB. Anything can happen when you're overseas and you're traveling that length, especially to a guy who's prone to be holding water in that first round on stage.
Yeah, but you'd think these guys, if they're going to go there, they're using their social media to let their fans know where they're going to be. I mean, they use their social media for everything else. Why don't they say, I'm going to compete over there? There should be a picture of these guys on their way to freaking Italy.
Yeah, agreed.
I can tell you Nathan's done for the year. He's already back into the off season.
So
well, no, the Italy Pro is September 8th.
So we got a week and a half.
We got a week and a half, Sean.
Yeah, you got a week and a half. Other than Andre Presti, do we know anybody else that would possibly be in the show?
No, Bob, I know you were very impressed with Rubiel Mosquera dancing in Dubai, and apparently he's going to be in Italy again. So, do you speculate him dancing again?
Hopefully we won't see the dancing bear routine again. But Rubiel's one of those guys. I hate to already put him in this position, but he's kind of put himself in this position. I'm going to believe that Rubiel's competing there when he's actually on stage there, because I've heard he's competing. Then I heard he pulled out and he wasn't competing. Then I heard he's back and he's competing. So I'm going to leave him off any list of projections that we could make and predictions. Let's get him on stage. Can he beat Hunter? If both these guys were 100%, Hunter would beat him 10 times out of 10. That's a given.
The last update I saw of Rubiel, him posing in a gym last week, he looked like he was a good 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out. He did not look anywhere near ready.
I have an advice for you, Rubiel Mosquera, if you're watching this live, or if any friend of Rubiel Mosquera is watching this live. If I were you, instead of doing the dance moves, I would replace all those dance moves for a variation of most muscular, which would emphasize your strength as a mass monster. So that would be my humble advice to you.
Listen, I've got some humble advices too. Rubiel, stop doing traps. Okay, no more shrugs. Just stop. Just say no.
While you're at it, why not do some more lunges and leg extensions and leave all the squats and presses alone?
Yeah, he's a big boy. Listen, he's a freak, and let me tell you something about freaks. We've talked about this. A freak has a chance anytime that you want to start talking about bodybuilding at this level. Nick Walker is a freak, okay? By every definition, that guy is dangerous and he's scary because he can beat guys that are put together better than him because he comes in condition, he's very consistent, and he's got a lot of muscle, and bodybuilding fans like freaks. So you got to give it to these guys to hang in there. And listen, before he's done, he's going to win some shows. We're talking about Rubiel and Nick. Nick, as we projecting, will probably be in that top 5 or 6 call out, that first initial one. It's Hunter that's kind of the odd man out looking in on that, because if you're looking at the Olympia, if we're transitioning to Olympia talk, you got Derek, Connie, Samson, and Andrew, which I don't think under any circumstances those 4 guys will not be in the first call out. That leaves one more spot that if they're going to call out 5. That spot would probably go to Nick Walker, but that's where Hunter's got his work cut out, because then the big battle is on. Brandon, Tabani, Raphael. Don't forget about Raphael Brandau. I mean, he's made significant improvements. Akeem. We don't even know if Big Rami's in the show. And my early prediction for a dark horse into this, Muhammad Fuda, who was very impressive in his debut win over here in the States, and he could upset the apple cart into that 5th, 6th, 7th call out. I mean, placing, not call out.
Well, I noticed that William Bonek was noticeably missing from that also.
And Bonek. I mean, and I didn't mean to exclude Bonek, other than we got too many names. But listen, Bonek's still dangerous, man. He's still presenting a damn good physique.
Just another one. Yeah.
I mean, Curry, he has not placed lower than 4th since he won the Olympia. He's not been out of the top 5 once.
Bob, you forgot to mention Brendan Curry.
I did mention Brandon.
Yeah, he mentioned Brandon.
You
Curry.
did? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, let me tell you, Brandon is one of those unsung heroes. Like, his name kind of gets dropped when you start talking about the guys. But like as Ron pointed out, this guy hasn't been out of the top 5 literally since he showed up at the Olympia, gathered a Sandow. And listen, he's very consistent. He may not be as ripped as those other guys, but his proportions certainly make up for it. But I tell you what, it is stacked up high. You might see one of the smaller call-outs at the beginning. You might see Big Steve only call out like 3 guys. I know, Sean, we've talked about that before, where you're probably I know you're not convinced, Sean, that you're going to see that big 6-7 man call-out at the Olympia level.
Right. I think it actually makes it a little bit more interesting and keeps us on the edge of our seat, going 3 deep instead of 5, 6, 7 deep. At the end of the day, I think the cream will rise to the top. The Olympia, it always does wind up with that. And it's really trying to figure out who's going to be 4, 5, and 6. That's the toughest part to figure out.
We have here one of my best friends in the business, Brian Bowman. He's an IFBB judge. He's been around for a long time. Andrew Jack looked fantastic in Texas. Definitely the biggest man on stage in crazy symmetry. Will he be as impressive next to Samson? Will he have the condition to stand next to Hadi and Terrick? John, there was some pictures online of Samson Dowd. I think he posted some pictures.
Yeah,
he looked a lot more conditioned than before. What did you think?
I'm very, very impressed. He looks huge and he looks really conditioned. So, yeah, I mean, all these guys. Terrick too has been posing some pictures in the gym, and he's looking incredible too every day. So the social media war is on, and all these guys are posting stuff every day or every week. So it's looking really, really tough for that top 4 or 5.
Ron, did you see that picture of Samson Dowda?
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Samson, and it's not a crazy thing because that's going to sound awful, but his wife is coaching him for the Olympia, and they keep saying this could be the first time a female coach has taken someone to the Mr. Olympia title. Who's to say? He was 3rd last year. Anything can happen. We've all been surprised at the Olympia in our years watching the show. I love the shape on the guy, the round, full muscle bellies, the proportions. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see him next to Andrew Jacked. I think it's going to be a lot of little battles. We want to see Hadi and Terrick next to each other. Of course, I want to see Samson and Andrew to see, is Andrew finally going to get past him? Because up to this point, he's never beaten him. Could this be the year? And, Sean was referring to the fact that he can't get much better than we saw in Texas. I disagree. I think they intentionally brought him in. Chris Aceto brought him in. Let's throw a number like 85, 90%, because they knew there was nobody that was really going to push him that hard in Texas. And there's no reason for him to be 100% there. He's got at least 10 pounds of muscle that he never had before. He's kept everything the same proportions. Yeah, look at that. Oh, that's Brandon, right?
That's the other black guy. That's the other black guy, Ron.
It's going to be a hell of a fight. This is, the Olympia is always the greatest show of the year, but this is a very, very exciting Mr. Olympia we're heading into.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's not going to happen is Andrew Jack's not putting on more size going into the Olympia. That's not going to happen. And bringing conditioning. I haven't seen it done, especially this close to the Olympia, 5, 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out. Growing into the Olympia has been a thing of the past. That sailed with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Most of these guys got to come down. There's a lot that goes on after a show like that. The rebound effect. Does Andrew eat for a couple of weeks and then diet down for a couple of weeks? he's kind of put himself in that X factor that we don't really know what's going to happen. And again, the way to the crown, that Olympia, you wind up holding water, and your mind plays tricks on you because you think you got to do more, or maybe you think you got to do less, and it's a slippery slope because there's so much at stake. And we know that some of these guys, they wind up holding water and spilling over and doing crazy shit at the last minute, and it's only because of the size of that show, the magnitude of what happens to your life once you win it. So he's really got to dial everything in perfectly to look better than he did in Texas.
Hey, I have
What
a
excites
question.
me a lot about Andrew is that last year I think he was a little burned out going to the Olympia. He did a lot of shows. If you look at what he did over the previous 12 months, and I think by the time he got to the Olympia, he was a little burned out. And now he took a lot of time off in the off season. He added a lot more quality mass. He just did that one show in Texas. That was kind of his warm up, and now he can just peak for the Olympia. So I think potentially he could really, really surprise a lot of us.
For me, the guy that has the best body is Samson. The guy that I think would make the biggest impact winning that title would be Andrew Jack. I mean, I'd be rooting for Andrew Jack to win that title. It would change the look and dynamic and feel of what the Mr. Olympia looks like. I'd be all for it. He's bringing back that X frame that Tony Freeman used to sport, the big 6-foot guy. I don't think you'd find anybody in that house booing if Andrew Jack is dialed in, he's at his best, and he walks off as Mr. Olympia. The one guy that would be upset with the best physique on that stage is Samson Dowder because of his water retention and the thick skin that he has.
Interesting.
Well,
Interesting.
let me just chime in on that one. What you got here, boys, is you've got you can break this up into teams. Okay, you got Terrick and Hadi, who are very similar in height, structure, muscularity, conditioning, and all that. And then you got Samson and Andrew Jack, the two big guys, 2 6-foot plus guys. Right, the big man returns. What's going to dictate the flow is those two guys. If those guys bring conditioning up from where we've seen it on either one of them. And again, it can't happen. We've seen great progress from Andrew Jack. We're seeing Samson look a little bit better. Hopefully he's coming a little bit leaner or get that skin a little thinner. If those two guys show up in shape, they're going to help each other because bodybuilding is all about comparison. Those two big men could go 1 and 2 if they can get that kind of conditioning. On the other hand, it could go completely the other way with Terrick and Hadi going 1 or 2, either way, if those two big men don't rise to the occasion.
Correct.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Let's see if Samson and Andrew Jack can really attack those shorter, more dense guys, especially on the side poses. Now, gentlemen, I want to talk to you about the Rising Phoenix, 50 grand for the winner. Miss Olympia Andrea Shaw has won that show the last 4 years. She's Miss Olympia. Everything is set up for her to win again. She's the, favorite to win. And then Angela Yo comes in and shocks the world. John, what happened?
Well, Angela came in fantastic condition. I was just watching some of the footage of it before the show started here today. And especially with the glutes, she was really, really, really hard. And she looked like she's even bigger. So, Andrea has her battle, set up for her in the Olympia. But I think Andrea could pull it off again because I think she's got a superior structure. She's just got to dial it in a little bit more. But congratulations to Angela. She pulled off a real upset.
Ron Harris, you were watching it. What did you think of this surprising result in Phoenix?
It really wasn't that surprising because I don't think Andrea brought 100%. Yeah. I don't know if it's an intent. I doubt it was intentional. I don't think she would want to give up 50 grand and they get like some tricked out truck or something too. I think
no car anymore, but the money.
Just money. Okay. Well, still, I can't see her intentionally saying, I'm going to come in and cruise in at 90%. I'm that great. She's not like that, but for whatever reason, she wasn't at her best. Angela got better and Andrea was not at her best and Angela got her this time. But we have almost 8 weeks. We have 7.5 weeks to go. Plenty of time for Andrea to sharpen up. She still does have superior size, structure, shape. It's just, genetically, it's a superior physique. Angela's done a great job with what she was given. If Andrea tightens up, though, I don't see her losing. I see her getting Olympia number 5.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what Ron just said. I think we saw This is Angela at her absolute best. And I think that anyone's beatable when you're at your absolute best. And I'm sad that it didn't translate back in my era on that Olympia stage. But Andrea, she took it on the chin. She actually recognized she wasn't at her best, or she probably would have been upset with herself, right? But she's got superior genetics. She's not peaking here for this show. She's maybe a little bit behind on where she needed to be on the process. And you got somebody that was hungry enough to go and challenge her, and she got rightfully rewarded. But make no mistake, that Olympia title is Andrea's to lose. And Angela, I'm not so sure how much more she can do to her physique to attract our attention. But with Andrea, it's a conditioning thing. That's something she's a master at doing. And sometimes when you get comfortable beating these girls over and over and over again, you take your foot off the gas and you get caught. Right now, Andrea's doing everything she can to go for number 5. And I do not think for 1 second that she's going to lose when Las Vegas comes around.
Bob Chick, what happened?
What happened is really simple. It's Gunther versus Ronnie.
Absolutely.
At the GNC show of strength. Okay, that's what you got. Here was Ronnie, right? The incumbent champ, Mr. Olympia. Here's Gunther. Listen, not as good structurally, shape-wise, proportion-wise. A lot of muscle on that big German giant, but come on, he wasn't in Ronnie's class, but he caught Ronnie sleeping. Ronnie came in off. Listen, Andrea came in off. I don't think she makes any excuses for it. She just didn't nail it, whether they just miscalculated, or maybe she, it's easy to become complacent when you're the champ for the last 5 years. And Angela caught her. She caught her sleeping, man. And listen, good for her. She showed up 100%. Best I've ever seen, and she deserved that title. And Andrea, all that did, unfortunately, and she's got to enjoy this title while she's got it, because all she did was light a fire under Andrea's ass. I can tell you right now, that is not sitting well with the champ. She's not taking away anything from Angela, because she rightfully beat her. But you want to see the best version of Andrea Shaw you've ever seen? Come to the Olympia this year. You're going to see it.
I'm going to use a very diplomatic word. After the show, Andrea Shaw was backstage, and I can tell you that she's quite determined to make sure the Olympia has a different outcome of the Rising Phoenix. That's how I'm going to put it. But I want to talk to you guys. Angela Yo has placed second place at the Olympia. Andrea Shaw is Miss Olympia. Stop and take a look at Ashley Jones, because I think, despite the great genetics of Andrea Shaw, she does have a little bit of high lats, which you don't see on Ashley Jones. Look at the front double biceps here. Is Ashley Jones potentially the best genetics here? Look at this.
No, I think Andrea Shaw is still superior. Andrea's a little bit too small, pound for pound, in all the areas that Andrea's back is so much wider. The muscle thickness, she reminds me of a Linda Murray and an Iris Kyle combination. But your girl is good. She's just a little small. She's on the small side on everything.
John?
Yeah, I agree with Sean. I think, Andrea's height makes a big difference, her structure, and, the comparison to Linda is a good one. I think, overall, I think she's just got that great combination of size and shape and structure that all the great Olympians have. And, if she just hardens up a little bit more, I think she can win this title as long as she wants.
Ron, what do you think of Ashley Jones? I was impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. She's very good in her own right. Do I see her pushing Andrea Shaw? No, not really. As everyone's already pointed out, it's a size issue. She just doesn't have the mass to stand next to them and beat them, even if she was a lot more conditioned. But I'll tell you what, I'm happy. I'm not happy that Andrea got beat. Don't let it sound like that. But this sets up a much more exciting Ms. Olympia than we've seen in a few years. When we have someone who's that dominant, where it's almost a foregone conclusion, kind of like, okay, Sydney Gillen's going to win. Figure we know this. She wins all the damn time. Andrea, she's on that streak, and this sets up a little drama and the possibility, at least in a lot of the fans' minds, maybe she's not going to win this time. Maybe now Angela's going to. It's going to be a lot more exciting for everyone involved. So I'm not happy because I don't like to see anybody lose. Although I'm happy for Angela, but I'm happy that this makes it for a much more exciting Miss Olympia.
Bob, you and I love drama. This causes some drama going into the Miss Olympia.
Well, listen, it tells everybody that she actually has what it takes to take out the champ, and she did. Need a little bit of help from the champ, and like I say, I don't know if you're going to see that twice, but it does set up for a nice rematch on the Olympia stage, which is exactly where it should be. As for Ashley Jones, Mrs. Jones, we got a thing going on. Listen, I love her. Little Hercules looks great out there. The only problem is she's a little bit too light to fight and too thin to win.
I'm telling you, you better watch out for Ashley Jones. She's got genetics for ages. I love her physique.
She does. Yeah.
Yeah. I love her.
She reminds me of a modern day Muhammad Makawe, a modern day Lila Brada, because those two guys, and they both got second in the Olympia. They were good enough.
Yeah.
But they were just losing to bigger guys, myself included, when you throw that in there with Dorian and the size factor. This girl has everything it takes. She just doesn't have the size to stand in there if Andrea comes in shape.
Very nice, very nice. I want to finish with a few picks here. I want to make sure some of you guys lose followers. Bob Chick,
Yes.
Who's winning the Miss Olympia?
Andrea Shaw. Let's just just write it down right now. Bob Stradamus has spoken. The streak continues. As great as Angela Yo looked, even if she duplicates that, Andrea Shaw holds the cards in her hands. There's nothing Angela or anybody else can do if Andrea Shaw is 100%, because she has superior shape, symmetry, proportion, poses like a champ, presents herself like a champ. She's got everything that it takes. It's only conditioning. The difference is that she can change her conditioning. The other girls can't get what she's got.
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I second that. That she's the champ, and sometimes losing is the best medicine for somebody to be driven to fix the mistakes. That title is something that she's become accustomed to. I do not think for 2 seconds she wants to go into the holiday season coming off of a 2-time defeat to this girl. 'Cause you lose twice, you start second-guessing your career and your place in this industry. And this girl's dead set on trying to catch up with Linda Murray and ultimately surpass Iris Kyle, who's got 10 titles. So she's only halfway to her dream, Andrea Shaw is. And this sometimes is what a great athlete needs to get shaken up.
John, Ron, you guys agree with Bob Chick and Sean Ray?
Yeah, I agree. I think Andrea's going to get it, especially like you said, Terrick. She's determined after the loss to really come back. I mean, all she's got to do is dial in that conditioning, and I'm sure she will.
I mean, think about this. Andrea Shaw has not been beaten since 2019. Nobody's beaten this woman in almost 5 years exactly. She is more motivated now. There's a fire under her ass. She's angry. She's going to come in. I predict we're going to see the best conditioning on Andrea this year than we've ever seen on her before.
And let's remember, this is a great show, but it's not the Olympia. And that's where I think the rubber hits the road. And while Angela's going to be fired up, she's on the cusp of making history. If she can knock off Andrea Shaw, I mean, she's right there with the legendary bodybuilders on the Olympia stage, but it's just not the same when it's not the Olympia. I don't care how much prize money is at stake. If it doesn't have the Olympia signature on it, it's one of those asterisk type of victories like Gunther Schlierkamp had over Ronnie Coleman.
It was, I did the pay-per-view. It was a fantastic event. There we have Olympia owner Jake Wood. He created the Rising Phoenix to keep women's bodybuilding alive. And today, man, this past weekend, all we could talk about was the Rising Phoenix. So congratulations to Jake for a show that was brought from the ashes. Right now, the Rising Phoenix is an iconic event. There's Alina Popa, who won the show in 2018 when there wasn't Miss Olympia. She became world's bodybuilding champion. Alex Sacasa, who is the promoter of the event. She did a tremendous job. And 8-time Miss Olympia, Linda Murray, looking like she's 27 years old, making us all look old. But congratulations to Angela Yo. Congratulations to Andrea Shaw, Ashley Jones, Sherry Priami, and Michaela Aycock. Great event. Rising Phoenix was epic. Shannon Day did a great job. Many people speculating she should be the MC of the Olympia, but that's not my business. Man, I said, hey, man, I think Bob is great. They're like, man, Shannon looks great. She's got the hair and everything. So
I get hair. What are you
I
talking about?
I support it. Folks, before we go, we leave the live here. A lot of the fans want to know, John Hansen, who's winning the Mr. Olympia in 2024?
My heart goes to Andrew Jack, but I think right now I would pick Terrick.
Ron Harris. I know they're all your friends and you have a good relationship with them, but it's time for you to make some enemies. Who's winning the Mr. Olympia in 2024?
Well, I definitely don't want to make enemies over in Iran, and that's not the reason I'm saying this, but I think Hadi's getting his title back this year. I love Derek Lunsford, love his physique. I think Hadi is just on a mission. He's on fire. He's looking crazy right now.
Sean Ray, you're very, very unafraid to make enemies. So this will not be a problem for you.
Yeah. I think Hadi Chupin comes back and takes his title. As much as I love Samson and he's got the best physique on that stage, I think there's a few things that are just going on in that camp that I can't get with. The one thing I know is that Hadi Chupin has been training all year for this. And there's nothing worse than somebody that's training their ass off to get something back that they think they got stolen from them. Those Iranians have put it in Hadi's head that it was stolen, and he's training like it was stolen. And, Derek's got enough distractions. He's got a new kid. He's got some newfound fame. He may be hungry, and I saw his back. His back is phenomenal. But when you turn to the front, Hadi's kind of on a different playing field. And he's been there. I think he's going to come back and take the title home back to Iran.
Well, I judged the Olympia, and I voted for Derek Lunsford to be Mr. Olympia. So you can put that on my tab. And the previous
I agreed
year,
with you, by the way, Terrick. I agree.
And the previous year, I judged and I voted for Hadi Chupin to win. So I had Hadi Chupin the previous year. I had Derek in 2023. Love the Iranian fans, but I think Derek Lunsford was a better bodybuilder in 2023, and Hadi was better in 2022. Bob Ciccarillo, whose name are you announcing as Mr. Olympia?
Well, it's very hard to take out the champ. The incumbent usually has the advantage. If you're charting the progress that Derek Lunsford has made, now let's keep in mind, it was only, 3 years ago that he was on a 212 stage? So the progress he's made from that point to the Open, that famous guest posing in Jim Mannion's Pittsburgh show, which opened up that old Pandora's box into the Open division, ultimately resulting in an Olympia victory. Anybody looking at the training footage right now is seeing that, this guy is on a mission. He's got some new muscles. I don't even know if I've ever seen it in somebody's back. Another year of progress for Derek. I got to stick with the champ at this point right here. I think it's going to be very close. Even though I'm sticking with the champ, I'm hoping for the upset. I would love to see Samson. Everybody knows I'm very high on Samson. I love his physique. I think he's the most complete guy out there, 6 foot tall, 280-something pounds, hopefully on stage and not anything more. And Andrew Jack is tremendous. But these guys, to me, I'm old school, man. I want to see a big, tall, big bastard out there as Mr. Olympia. No, all due respect to the current champ and all the other champs. I would love to see the upset special, man, but these guys got to prove themselves. And right now, Derek Lunsford is Mr. Olympia.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from 4 of the greatest bodybuilding minds in the history of our sport. So you guys can leave your comments here if you agree and disagree. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Sean Ray, who has won the Arnold Classic, won the Ironman. He's a national champion, one of the most decorated bodybuilders of all times. He knows everything about that first call out of the Olympia. Thank you so much, Sean. And first, let's talk a little bit about your sponsors. That's Dark Sport, right?
No, this right here is Wolfpack Bag. They're sponsoring the Sean Ray Classic coming up in Hawaii, November the 16th. So all you guys, after you burn out on the Olympia weekend, come out to Hawaii and grow your hair back and chill out and enjoy I got pro bikini and pro men's physique, and I got Andrea Shaw guest posing. I'm sure she's going to have her 5th Olympia title with her in tow.
Very nice. And also, Shan is sponsored by Mutant, who's also a sponsor of the Mr. Olympia. John Hansen, one of the greatest historians of bodybuilding. Every time I think of something in history I don't know, I think John knows this stuff. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on again, Terrick. I appreciate it.
More than welcome. Ron Harris, who has the Ron Harris Muscle Show. Ron Harris, who was my favorite writer at Muscular Development. I one time said, Ron, you're doing so well. Peter McGov would be very proud of you. Ron, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Terrick. Appreciate it.
And then the voice of bodybuilding, Bob Ciccarillo. He's the master of ceremony for the Mr. Olympia. He's also Mr. USA 2000. And who knows, maybe he gets an invitation to compete at the Masters Olympia. I know he likes those invitations. Bob, thank you.
Yeah, that would be one of the things that will never happen. Like Sean growing his hair back. Okay,
It's gone, man.
This ain't ever.
Gone
Listen,
away.
I'll be on stage with a brand new suit and a tie as we celebrate Joe Weider's 60th Mr. Olympia, and of course, history will be made once again. The only question, boys, is will the name be Derek Lunsford or Hadi Chupan?
My name is Terrick Guindy with the Mr. Olympia. We'll see you next week.